Thank you, Chairperson, judges, audience, and our opponents. I'm Asuka Kido, and I'll be the affirmative constructive speaker. I'm very glad that I'm able to join this semifinal, and I'm very thankful for my teammates and everyone who's supported me to this day. This is a very important game, and I want to enjoy debating with them as well. And today I have some talented here that eases my nervousness. He's called Uribo, and he's Kobe University's character, not Freeze, and he eases my nervousness, and I like to do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Taichi, a talk speaker from the affirmative side. I'm very glad to have a debate with United High School. Based on what I have learned through this tournament so far, I want to enjoy this debate. Also, I want to laugh on this debate too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson and judges, and the audience, and of course the opponents. My name is Kazumi Takasaki, and I'll be a different speaker on the affirmative side. I cannot believe that I can be here, so I'm very glad for that class. And maybe you may have this pamphlet, and I am very glad many people praised about this pamphlet because this picture I designed and I painted this. This is my second time to print here. I'm very proud of it. So, anyway, I want to enjoy this one against United High School, and I want to do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Haruka Sawazaki, the summary speaker from the affirmative side. We're really honored to be on the stage of the semi-final of this euthanasia debate. I guess today will be the last day for us to debate on this topic of euthanasia, and we're very proud that we could have a chance to have a debate against many people with this very important topic. And I'd like to appreciate all the people who gave us this opportunity, all of our families and all of our team members and our friends. So I'd like to thank all of them, and I hope I can learn a lot of things from this game, and I want to enjoy this game. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. We will now have brief introduction from the negative side members.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Yuzuki, and I'll be the constructive speaker from the negative side. I don't know what to say, but I'm very happy to be here with very kind senpai, and I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Yuki. I'm an attack speaker on the negative side. We are from Chiba, we came from far, but some of my kohai are really looking forward to see our fun debate. So I want to enjoy debate with not only my opponent, but also everyone who are in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Hinako. I'll be the defense speaker on the negative side. And I'm very proud that we are here. And also, I know Fujishima is a very, very strong team. So I want to do my best. And also, I'm very, very hungry now. And I have a little frustration because we did so many debates, and also I found many friends, so I'm very happy to be friends with you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Yukie. I'm a summary speaker for the negative side, and I'm really honored to be here with Fujishima High School. And as Hinako said, you're really, really strong team. And I think I can enjoy this debate a lot because they're really strong, and we can beat each other. And I'm gonna enjoy this debate. Thank you.
Okay, please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, audience, and our opponents. I'll start the affirmative constructive speech. My name is Asuka. Plan 1. patients will be euthanized after a week their request is accepted. 2. Patient's clear consent will be shown by a written document. 81. Relieving physical pain. 81. Relieving physical pain. 8. Present situation. Both terminal and non-terminal patients have severe pain. According to Japan University Hospital 2007 code, 75% of terminal and 60 to 70% of non-terminal patients with cancer are suffering from serious pain, unquote. However, this pain cannot be cured. According to Japanese Society of Pharmaceutical Healthcare and Sciences 2006 code, 10 to 20% of cancer patients feel extreme pain even after receiving medicine, unquote. Moreover, passive euthanasia is not effective because doctors cannot conduct passive euthanasia. According to Nagao Kazuhiro of Japanese Center for Death with Dignity 2011 code, only a few percent patients can choose passive euthanasia now, unquote. In addition, even if patients choose passive euthanasia, they are just starving to death, which means that the patients are forced a painful death. Therefore, patients are forced to suffer from consistent, endless pain. B effect 1. With euthanasia, patients can be released from agony. 2. Active euthanasia can effectively reduce the pain of patients. According to the American Medical Association 2006 code, in the Netherlands, 94% of patients who carried out euthanasia died within an hour, unquote. See importance. Easing pain is the purpose of medical treatment. However, with the advancement of medical treatment, it is possible to keep suffering patients alive. Therefore, just keeping the patient alive is not actually helping the patients. Active euthanasia is the only way to save patients, so you must guarantee euthanasia as a last resort. 82. Regulation of terminal treatments to consider a patient's will. 82. Regulation of terminal treatments to consider the patient's will. A present situation. More and more people consider how they want to end their lives. However, there is no law regulating euthanasia or other terminal treatments, and there is no consistent standard for doctors. Consequently, there is confusion in hospitals. The proper way to deal with terminal treatments is ambiguous. For example, in the 1995 Tokai University Hospital case, the doctor was initially against euthanizing an unconscious patient, but was not able to reject the family's strong request to do so. In addition, sometimes treatments that gradually lower the consciousness and shortens the patient's lives are being used. According to Gifu Red Cross Hospital code, in 57% of cases of sedation, only the family's will was checked, unquote. This means that medical treatments that lead to death are carried out without the patient's will. However, there is no law, so these cases are not dealt with properly. They are not brought up to the court, and even if they are, the court cannot judge these cases properly. B effect 1. A law established to legalize euthanasia. It will be clear that the patient's will is necessary, and the euthanasia will be under the supervision of the Euthanasia Review Committee. 2. Euthanizing patients without their will is clearly illegal, so doctors will certainly check the patient's will. In fact, according to Professor Reggie Philipson of the Department of Public and Occupational Health Code, non-voluntary euthanasia has decreased from 0.8% of all deaths in 1990 to 0.2% in 2010, unquote. 3. Even if the patient was euthanized without their clear consent, the court with a clear standard can judge it. Therefore, as the law regulates these cases, they will decrease over time. See importance. Only the government, by establishing a law regulating terminal care, could solve the problem that there is no law to protect the patient's will. According to the court decision of the Kawasaki Kyoto Hospital case 2009 code, this problem can no longer be solved through the interpretation of the current law, and a new law or guideline is required, unquote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, speaker. We will now have a 1 minute preparation time. Okay, preparation time has ended. We will now have questions from the negative summary speaker for 2 minutes.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so please say your name and start.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. My name is Yukie. So first, TOD 1. So you said about some medicine. So like, what medicine are you talking about?
For example, Molfen.
Molfen?
We showed you the evidence, we gave you and it says so in the evidence.
Okay, so it's Molfen, right?
One of the examples.
Okay, thank you. And so, in your 81, who is your target? Is it terminally ill patient?
patients who are suffering from physical pain, and non-terminal patients are included as well, as we said in our present situation.
Okay, thank you. And so let me move on to your 82. So like in your 82, so you said about clear standards. So like what countries have clear standard now?
Well, what we want to say in our 82 is that there's not even a
Okay, so what country? I'm asking.
in the Netherlands, there's a law for euthanasia, and non-voluntary euthanasia cases have actually decreased.
Okay, thank you. And so why? So like how many people need your 82 now? So like how many people are suffering?
In the current situation, the problem is that the patient's will is not checked when terminating their
How many?
treatment.
I'm asking how many.
We showed in the present situation that 57% of cases of sedation.
But you don't have exact number, right?
Well, the problem is that there is
Okay,
no
so like, okay,
regulation.
thank you. And so why do they need that?
We believe that that is irreversible. So we need a clear law or like a standard that that to consider the patient's will. And in the present situation, it's not even considered, which is a problem.
Okay, so like, why family's own will the most important thing in your D82?
Could you repeat that?
A
Could you-
patient's own will. So why patient's own will the most important thing?
That is something. So, for example, sedation ends their lives, and life should be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Yuzuki. D1, increased risk of medical error. Increased risk of medical error. Present situation. Now, a doctor's ethical obligation is to cure the disease or to extend the lives of patients in Japan. However, 90% of doctors felt that performing euthanasia is a burden in the Netherlands, according to Alliance Vita 2017. According to Hanta Marik, AMGO Institute, BU University Medical Center 2007, quote, many physicians describe problematic and sometimes even traumatic experiences such as loneliness, mixed feelings, and contradictory emotions. And both physicians said, there's a feeling of loneliness that people can't empathize with. Also, according to Professor Theo A. Boer, quote, 50% of physicians indicated that they have occasional sleepless nights because of a case of physician-assisted suicide, unquote. The evidence proves that Dutch doctors experience an unusual and really heavy burden from euthanasia. In fact, stress caused by euthanasia will make doctors fall into traumatic, sleepless life which can affect their medical practice. According to Milton Kramer from the University of Cincinnati, 2010, quote, doctors sleeping less than 5 hours per night were more likely to report have significant medical errors, unquote. In addition, according to the Science Council of Japan, 2002, stress leads to less concentration and it is connected to medical errors. Doctors with strong mental stress cause 4.2 to 4.7 times more medical errors than those without, according to JANAP 2008. It is obvious that the mental burden from euthanasia will lead to a higher risk of medical errors. Impact. Medical errors are a serious matter. They can even cause the deaths of innocent people who have nothing to do with euthanasia. A doctor's job is to cure and not to harm in any way. We must not create a society which risks people's lives. D2. Unnecessary deaths from misdiagnosis. Unnecessary deaths from misdiagnosis. In the countries which allow active euthanasia, there are cases of doctors' misdiagnosis causing unnecessary deaths. For example, in 2013, Dignitas, the Swiss suicide clinic in Basel, killed a 62-year-old magistrate after he was incorrectly diagnosed by Italian and Swiss doctors as having a life-threatening illness. However, the examination failed to find any trace of such an illness. Even though 2 doctors were involved, this kind of tragedy happened. Also, a 2012 article in Current Psychiatry quoted, studies found that 26% to 45% of patients referred for depression did not meet diagnostic criteria for depressive illness. This shows that doctors cannot always diagnose patients who are mentally sick correctly. Now, active euthanasia is illegal in Japan, so even if people wish to die, doctors and society focus on healing and supporting patients, not ending their lives. In fact, after the plan, doctors have to judge if the patient's suffering is incurable or not. However, it is extremely difficult to make correct decisions. According to Mercator.net 2017, a study in the Netherlands found that 66% of euthanasia cases failed to meet procedural due care criteria. such as the consulting doctors not being independent enough from the doctors carrying out euthanasia and not being thorough enough in applying the unbearable suffering criterion. Therefore, even if the government decides a rule, there is no guarantee that it will be applied 100%. In fact, every patient is different, every disorder is different, and every person experiences symptoms differently. People are unpredictable, and their illnesses even more so. There will be up to 26,600 cases of euthanasia caused by misdiagnosis in Japan. There should not be even a single case of unnecessary death, because with euthanasia, the result is always final. There is no second chance. We should not let people who can recover or who are healthy choose death. DA1, increased risk of medical error, increased risk of medical error. DA2, unnecessary deaths from misdiagnosis, unnecessary deaths from misdiagnosis. Thank you.
Please say your name and stop.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. My name is Haruka Sawazaki, and I'd like to ask you some questions. In your DA1 about medical error, you said like doctors will feel some burden by euthanasia, right?
Yes, because
And they have sleepless and they cause medical error.
yes.
What's medical error? Did you explain what is it?
We are talking about all kind of medical error, like mistake of kind and amount of medicine, miscommunication, and
So like
mistake
some
of
are really
surgery.
serious, some are not serious, right?
Yes, if it's serious,
Yes.
innocent people will cause deaths
Yes,
because
okay.
of doctors' mistakes.
So you said like medical error will be about 4.2 times to 4.7 times, right?
Yes.
How much different now? How much medical error is occurring now?
Actually, medical error in Japan is decreasing right now, and
How much serious medical error, which affects to like people's life, are occurring in Japan now? How much serious medical error would you say? You
we
talked
don't
about
have the number of serious medical
Yes,
error, but
you
if
mean-
it happened because of
yes.
DA1, it is very serious
yes,
because
okay, so
people will die
you mean
because
like it being even if small it become 4.2 times, then it's serious. You mean so?
yes.
Okay. So you said like if doctors have a stress, they cause medical error.
Yes.
You have evidence, but did you show that that stress was caused by euthanasia or just ordinary stress?
Yes, I said 90% of doctors felt that performing euthanasia is a burden and stress is less concentration and it is connected.
As a result, what happened? What happened? What medical error was caused by euthanasia?
Okay, according to the conversation January 2018, 16% of doctors reported that the emotional burden of performing euthanasia or physician-assisted suicide affected their medical practice.
So
which was
you never
affected
explained-
innocent people.
You never explain what medical practice error is, right? You just
Yes,
keep
but
saying,
there were
oh, okay.
16% of doctors felt that.
Okay, we understand. About your DA2, you said you have misdiagnosis, but what kind of misdiagnosis will occur? What do
When
you
doctors judge if patients should euthanize or not,
means
it is very difficult
Doctors
to judge.
mistake whether patient meets criteria or not, right?
Yes.
But all the patients are feeling very unbearable suffering, right? They really hurt a lot.
Yeah, but if they're curable, that their disease is
So-
curable, they shouldn't die.
Doctors cannot judge if it's curable or not. And
Yes,
that's a
it is
problem.
very difficult. We have
So,
evidence about it.
okay, and you gave us some number, but it's your own calculation, is it true?
And which number?
You gave us like how many people will die because of misdiagnosis, right?
Yeah, it is our calculation when we calculate
Yes.
the
And you
number.
said
with
66% of, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question time has ended. We will now have a 2-minute preparation time.
Thank you, Jefferson. My name is Yuki Arizona Talks. First about the 81. But first, please take this point. If patient's pain is bearable, we don't need euthanasia. Please take this point. Please remember this point. And first, they say that they are talking about terminal cancer patient. However, such patients can be relieved from pain without active euthanasia. The patient whose cancer cannot be treated can use the WHO system. According to Xiongli Pharmaceutical, this is a method that combines many types of analgesics. This method can reduce the pain of all patients who take it. Also, terminal cancer patients can use sedation. The patients are sedated with medicine to a degree that feel almost no pain. By these two methods, we can remove the pain of all patients and not need legalizing euthanasia. And also, first of all, no, most patients in the early stages can be cured now. According to Gifugan Netto, more than 90% of early stage cancer can be treated completely, so every cancer can be treated now. And second, they say that cancer cannot be treated, but it's not true. Now, technology of treatment is developed rapidly. For example, according to Shingen Medical in 2018, a new anti-cancer medicine called Fluindapyr is being tested by severe cancer patients, and it significantly decreases the side effect. And according to FindMed on December 7th, 2018, it can greatly decrease pain of cancer. This fact clearly shows that this is a practical cancer treatment. Also, according to Toshihiko Doi, Vice Principal of National Cancer Center Hospital East, near-infrared photoimmunotherapy is another way to treat cancer. Actually, it also decreases cancer dramatically. But 15% joined clinical trial with the technology, and 7 patients tumors disappeared thanks to this method. So we have already have the other method. Let me move on to their 82. First, they didn't mention how many cases of unnecessary deaths are happening, and after the plan, how many of them will be solved. So we don't understand their value. On the other hand, we clearly explain that all Japanese lives will be at risk of lower medical care and misdiagnosis. Good. Trustworthy medical care is really necessary to keep our body healthy, so our DA is much stronger than their in terms of the value, and we shouldn't take the plan. Second, they said after the plan, they said that unnecessary death will decrease, but it has no impact. According to Light Action in 2015, in the Netherlands, there were about 7,300 assisted deaths, of which about 430 were killed without ligas. That means that the number of non-voluntary euthanasia never reached zero after the plan. And as our constructive speaker said, there should not be any unnecessary deaths because there is no second chance after euthanasia. Therefore, we can say that this impact is really small and almost nothing. And third, they say that in 82 present situation in Japan, there is no law of euthanasia or terminal treatment, which means we don't have to legalize euthanasia. By making terminal treatment available, patients will be saved. So there is no uniqueness about 82, and also we show some examples that can be the treatment for severe pain. That's all. Thank you.
So, thank you, Chairperson, and of course the last speaker. Let me ask some questions. My name is Kazumi. So in your first part, you want to say that by using WHO treatment, we can save all the pain, right?
Yes. We can reduce all of the pain we take it.
Yeah, I understand. So you think that all the patients could choose the WHO treatment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, you also mentioned about the sedation can stop all the pain, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, in the second attack, you want to say that early stage cancer, 90% of early stage cancer can be treated, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, in the third attack, you want to say that due to the technology development, some new medicine was developed, and all the patients, all the cancer can be saved. So you think that all the patients could choose such a new technology and new medicine, right?
Yes, and it will connect to your 82 attack too, and because we showed the example that can be treatment of new technology for treatment for terminal care. So
okay, so your 82 third attack is depend on this attack. 82 3 attack depends on the 81 third attack. Is that okay?
Sorry.
Your 82 third attack is depend on the third attack to 81. Is that okay? It's related.
No, it's not related.
It's not related?
Yes.
So
in the last attack, I said that if we can make the new law about terminal treatment, we don't need active euthanasia. It can be other ways of active euthanasia.
Okay, thank you. But next, in the 82 first attack, you want to say I have to show how much serious the 82 is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And also, in the second attack, you want to say that even after the plan, some involuntary euthanasia had occurred in the Netherlands. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And it never reached zero, so we don't have to take this plan without because as we said in our constructive speech, we have the risk that everyone will be in the bad.
So we can find the involved. So in your evidence, you said that you can. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start.
Please say your name and start.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Let me start my talk speech. My name is Taichi. First, about your DA1. You said that after the plan, the medical error will increase by 4 times. However, now how many mistakes, how this mistake will happen? Without comparison, the big correct answer is 4% or imbalance. And moreover, you said that because of stress, error will happen 4 times. However, this stress is not about euthanasia, so the evidence is not related. For this 2 point, the DA1 is big. As a scanner back to DA1, you said that patients have longevity stress, however, it is not persistent at all. According to Medicine, Healthcare and Philosophy in 2010 code, even though the physicians have performed euthanasia suffer more, 95% of them say they are willing to euthanasia again, and 5% had a doubt but didn't regret, unquote. So this means because physicians are succeeded in saving patients from the unbearable suffering, they will come to the conclusion that they don't feel really stressed. Therefore, DA1 is not feasible. At the third attack to DA1, you said that because of the stress, medical error will happen. However, if one doctor makes mistake, another can find. According to Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare report, when a pharmacist or nurse has a doubt in a prescription for doctors, they should ask them for it before using medicine. Although hospitals need to send enough number of doctors, especially in the area where the mistake is likely to happen, unquote. Thus, even doctors likely to make mistakes, even in this area, this and they check medical practice each other, so DA is not feasible. Moving on to the DA2. You said that in the first, doctors can make a medical error about euthanasia patient suffering is incurable or not. However, the evidence you provided to the DA2 it's not about the patient first suffering from the unbearable pain. There's no evidence proof that those from unbearable suffering are misdiagnosed or not. So therefore, please know that what they said in DA2, the evidence is not relevant to this term. And moreover, when patient receiving euthanasia, patients have to suffer the unbearable suffering, and then doctors use some medicine to relieve this suffering. However, this medicine is ineffective and patients are still suffering. This means the incurable. Thus, the patients receive euthanasia. So there's no room for misdiagnosis in case of euthanasia. Please take this one. So now let me move on to scan attack to DA2. You said that the doctors overlook and some curable disease. Those who had a curable disease might be euthanized. However, that's not true because evaluation system works well. According to BMS published group in 2000, so 32% of reason why doctors refuse patients' request is that there is still alternative for the treatment, unquote. So this means that it is in the Netherlands and Portugal it is possible. So therefore, so this is not can be provided doctors. Also, they say that certain number of patients will be victims of euthanasia. However, how calculate this number? There is no response about this one. Also, in effect, you said that 66% of patients are failing to meet the criteria. This means the doctors noticed that they didn't meet the criteria. So this is not relevant to this DA, and this can be prevented by doctors. Thank you.
Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Nicole. So you have 3 attacks to RDA1 and 4 attacks to RDA2. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And in your first and second attack to first attack to RDA1, you said that we need comparison with present situation and after the plan.
So used just 4 times, and also the 4 times evidence is not about euthanasia. So this evidence is likely not to be related to this.
Okay. So in your second attack, you said that. So 91% of doctors said that they want to perform euthanasia again.
So 95% say again. Also 5% say that had a doubt, however didn't regret at all. Therefore,
so did you show that they didn't have any burden?
So even if physicians have burden, this is not persistent because they can respect patient's view on this stress risk.
So you want to say that the doctors will respect the patient's will so they don't feel the burden?
So even with stress, it's not persistent.
Okay, and in your third attack, you mentioned about the present situations, doctors will check another doctors.
So not all doctors conduct euthanasia. Even one doctor who conduct euthanasia make mistake, another doctor or nurse can find
it's the
mistake.
second opinion system, right?
No second opinion in the whole hospital. Even one doctor make mistake, another doctor. This medical plan is checked by so many doctors.
So is that applied to after the plan?
Of course, and in order to prevent mistakes,
Do you have
even now.
evidence of that?
Here.
Okay, please show me later.
Okay.
And also, how much risk will be decreased by that one?
Even one doctor make mistake. However, so many doctors.
What percent?
So we think that the possibility is almost 0 because
Okay.
no one.
And also in your third attack to RDA2, what is your main point?
Yes.
Yes.
So you said that so in the present situation, doctors have.
So you mean
fair-
that second and third attack, you're talking about there is a criteria, so doctors won't misdiagnose.
It actually works. And also, there's no evidence which support the effect.
Okay, thank you.
Stop. Question time has ended. We will now have a 2 minutes preparation time. Please say your name and start.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson.
Let me start my defense speech. My name is Kazumi. So in the first attack, they said that WHO treatment is enough to remove the patient pain. However, that's not true. Actually, the diffusion rate of WHO treatment is quite low. According to Slogan Japan University 2008 code, especially in Ojino Hospital, the diffusion rate of WHO treatment is low because of lack of knowledge and experience of doctor and lack of techniques. Unquote. Thus, even though such a treatment exists, it is not available for all the patients, so WHO treatment can never be the solution for this problem. Next, they also said about sedation is enough to remove the patient pain. However, they showed no evidence on this one, and moreover, patients suffering from unbearable pain for many years. Under such a situation, sedation can never be the fundamental solution for patients because it is too late. According to Kyoto University 1996 quote, sedation is usually conducted on a few days before the patient's natural death, unquote. Under such a situation, often patient has already lost their consciousness. Moreover, it cannot shorten the time they will suffer. So the second attack, this one can never stand. Next, second attack, they said that 90% of our stage cancer can be removed. However, 90% cured is out of the target. What we want to say is remain 10% who have incurable cancer and unbearable pain. So this attack is completely not relevant. Next and third attack, they said that due to the advancement of technology, we can remove all the patient's pain. However, that's not true. And first of all, they can never prove when and how it will be available for all the patients. And moreover, even if such special treatment exists, it is usually very expensive. For example, according to NHK 2016 quote, women paid more than 10 million yen for the newest treatment. And these cases are common, especially in case for cancer patients, unquote. Thus, even if such treatment exists, it can never be available for all the patients. So this attack can never stand. Next, in the 82's first attack, they asked me how they emphasize the DE1's impact. However, they can never show what kind of medical error will increase, and it's quite unclear. They can never prove this point. So this value is small and unclear. Please check this point. And moreover, they asked me the evidence to show the numbers. I will show you. According to campaign for dignity dying involuntary euthanasia has dropped 0.8% to 0.2% after the law came into force. So we can say that there is clear, the law has strong power to regulate involuntary euthanasia. In the second attack, they said that even after the plan, some involuntary euthanasia will occur. However, as long as there is clear evidence to show about involuntary euthanasia, it means that those cases finally found by the euthanasia review committee. After the plan, we can punish or arrest these things based on the clear law for the euthanasia. So eventually we can diminish this involuntary euthanasia. This is the uniqueness of the plan. Please remember. And the third attack, they said that we can introduce alternative law. However, they can never explain and prove how to introduce alternative law. So on this point, their third attack can never stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Nicole. So now, please remember that now we have the consensus with the AD and the DA that unnecessary death from misdiagnosis or unnecessary death by non-voluntary euthanasia is bad thing. And in their first attack, they said that we didn't show the comparison between present situation and after the plan, so I'll show you. 405 Dutch doctors were interviewed, and 75% of them expressed feeling of discomfort following euthanasia, while just 18% expressed feeling of discomfort after giving high doses of painkiller for suffering, according to Kenneth R. Stevens. This evidence clearly shows that performing euthanasia will surely increase the burden on doctors compared with giving strong medicine to save patients from pain. Also, they never showed any evidence to prove that the burden on doctors now is bigger than burden from euthanasia. So the possibility of medical error will be higher after the plan. And in their second attack, in their third attack, they said that even if doctors make mistake, another doctor can find it, but their evidence is doubtful. In their evidence, it didn't show Japan have that kind of system. It is said that Japan should have that system. Also, they proved medical error is a bad thing, with this evidence, and moreover, if patients die before mistake will be found, it is too late. Their attack is actually supporting our DA1. Therefore, their attack doesn't stand. And also in their second attack, they said that 95% of doctors they wanted to perform euthanasia again, but they never showed that they didn't have burden. So we already showed that in 2018, 90% of Dutch doctors felt burden. So please take this point. I'm moving on to DA2. And so in their first, so they didn't understand our point clearly. So I'll explain. So according to National Institute of Health quote, evaluating patients' request requires a complicated judgment. Also, according to Alan Paul Institute, 2017, 69% of Belgian doctors thought it is impossible to decide whether a patient's desire is true or not. Also, 48% of them said no one can say whether a patient is suffering enough to allow active euthanasia. This is our main point. Please take this point. And also, in their third attack, they said that doctors refused because they didn't meet criteria. But our target is that patients who were not refused but didn't meet criteria. So please take this point. And in their fourth attack, they said that 66% doctors noticed that the patients didn't meet criteria, but this means they admitted that the misdiagnosis will happen after the plan. So the possibility is really, really high. And also...
Please stop. Thank you. We will now have a 2-minute deliberation time.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Haruka Sawazaki, and I'd like to summarize this round. First, we the front end have kept on saying that in order to suffering the patients, in order to save the patients who are suffering, we have only euthanasia as solutions. However, the negative side has said that this euthanasia has some kind of risk. However, they explained that they never explained the logic of medical error, or they never explained the probability or the value of this misdiagnosis, which means why patients should not die although they're really suffering from severe pain. As long as they can never prove these risks, and as long as all of these risks is unrealistic, we think their risk can never be the fundamental reason to deny us saving all the patients who are suffering. Because the medical field should be like a priority of medical field should be each patient's happiness, and these really small cases of risk can never be the fundamental reason to deny these cases. So first, I'd like to argue about 82 and GA2's probability, which means whether the government can regulate cases of euthanasia or not. In their GA2, they say like doctors could cause some misdiagnosis. However, they, first of all, their probability is low because their calculation all just made by their own, so we cannot trust these things. And also, they have proved that they could already find 66% of those misdiagnoses. It means doctors can notice these points. It means to support our arguments that by a clear evaluation system, doctor can refuse those cases. Moreover, they say like unbearable or like kind of incurable is really difficult to judge. However, as long as the patients themselves feel that their pain is really unbearable and doctors have no solutions for them for a really long time, we think we can respect those will as unbearable and incurable decisions. So it can never be the reason to keep the patient suffering, although they just saying it cannot be unbearable, incurable. So we think we should prioritize these opinions. Rather, by making a clear law of euthanasia, we think we'll be able to regulate these kind of treatments. Because by making a law, we'll be clear that patient's own will is needed. They say like even after the plan adoption, we cannot make a case zero. However, we show that in Holland, these cases have already decreased in gradually about 1/4. Moreover, even if these cases occur, the court will be able to judge these cases based on the clear law. They can never deny this point. So even if these cases occur, we can judge them clearly. Another thing is about 81 and GA2's value, which means where there is unrealistic concern can be the fundamental reason to deny us or not. In the GA1, they explained about the medical error. However, we all still cannot understand what medical error is. Some can be serious, but some can not be serious. But they never explain what would occur. We can never understand clearly what will happen after the plan adoptions. Moreover, we have shown that like many of doctors do not feel so big stress, and also like lots of medical practice are not having like taken by only one doctor, but lots of doctors do those medical practice together. So we'll be able to prevent these things. They can never explain what will occur after the plan adoption. We think it's so unclear. So it can never be the reason to deny us, because we have shown that to save the patient we have only euthanasia, which means we think the value is really big. Because if we keep the present situation, patients just keep suffering for a really long time, and they give us a lot of alternatives. However, they never prove that those alternatives are effective to patients. In fact, these alternatives are not available for most of the patients, and these patients are in reality really suffering from severe pain. So, and we think that only solution, the effective solution can be euthanasia. They admit this point. So the purpose of medical field to prioritize the patient's happiness, we think that government should make a law to legalize euthanasia. That's why we're very proud. Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Please say your name and start.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. My name is Ike. So first, let me talk about our main points. So now doctors are not suffering from burden of euthanasia because they don't have to kill the patients right now. But however, they will feel the burden if we legalize euthanasia. This will surely happen because doctors will not be able to sleep enough. And we clearly show the sleeplessness affect their medical practice by evidence. Also, misdiagnosis will surely happen too because the case happened even if 2 doctors were involved. These 2 tragedies will surely happen by legalizing euthanasia, therefore we should not take your plan. And also, let me talk about RDA1. So in RDA1, they never attacked the point that 90% of doctors fail to performing euthanasia is a burden in the Netherlands. This means they admitted that euthanasia will surely be a burden on doctors, and they never said why it's okay to put that much stress on doctors. So our importance is really high. And also, in DA2, misdiagnosis can kill people who have a chance of recovery. If the suffering is bearable or curable, they don't need to die with euthanasia. Although the law was made for preventing this problem, the case had happened in the Netherlands. Life won't come back if it ends, so it should not happen. We have a huge uniqueness and possibility. Okay, now let me talk about their DADs. So in their 81, we showed some alternatives like WHO system, sedation, and new medicines, but they defended these points by saying it's hard for patients to use as for WHO sedation and sedation. They said that doctors can do because of lack of experiences and knowledge. In this point, it admitted that these treatments can work. Also, as for new medicine, it can be expensive. In this point, they didn't show any evidence to prove it. It's their assumption, so their defense is really weak. Okay, now, and in their 82, we said that they didn't prove that how many unnecessary deaths will happen and after the plan, how many unnecessary deaths will be solved. So the 82 no longer stands still. Okay, now let me compare our DA1 and their 81. So in their 81, there were many alternatives for euthanasia, as our tax speaker said. So we can solve this problem by other things. So we don't need euthanasia. But so there's no priority for 81. But in our DA1, in the present situation, doctors have no burden with them which comes from performing euthanasia. And after the plan, doctors will feel new burden which comes from judging their lives and it. So, and that will affect medical practice. So our priority is really big. So please take this point. And so in their 82, so let me compare 82 and DA2. So in their 82, they said that patients need clear standard. This means they admitted that misdiagnosis should not happen because misdiagnosis is about killing the people who have hope to live. Because people die unnecessarily because judging whether incurable or not is too difficult. If we legalize euthanasia, misdiagnosis will happen, and their attitude support our seriousness by saying clear standard is required. Please take this point.
Thank you, debaters. The debate is now over. You all did a great job.
Thank you very much, everyone. First of all, before any comments, I think everyone in the room knows that we just witnessed a really good debate round. It was a difficult decision to make because it was good on both sides, but I want to applaud both teams. Thank you. Now, I have a very, very short time, I've just been told, to make comments, and I apologize because I have a lot to say and would like to say more, but I have to keep this very brief. This was a very interesting round, I think, primarily because affirmative did some things that affirmative teams don't usually do, and negative did some things that negative teams don't usually do. The affirmative teams usually go in and they talk about how, we really have to stop suffering. And of course they did that in their AD1. But in their AD2, they actually made a point that philosophically is more often made by negative teams, that there's a problem of actually needing to regulate in order to avoid the problem of people being killed against their will, and having the evidence that in fact in the Netherlands there was a problem where some excessive decisions were being made against the patient's will without clear confirmation. So it's actually the kind of philosophy that you sometimes see on the negative, and I actually think that that the negative team maybe could have dealt with it a little bit better, because they had the evidence from Phillips talking about how with the introduction, of the Ethics Reviews Committee, that there was a significant reduction in the sort of unauthorized euthanasia. It's kind of like, more of the kind of pro-life, anti-euthanasia type of argument that typically, is made by the negative, but it was kind of being made by the affirmative on this side. And I think on that one, the negative really should have countered that evidence a little bit more, because at least for me, that ended up flowing a lot across the page and actually gave some significance to that advantage number 2. Now, on the negative side, you did have some interesting things when you talked about it. You actually talked about the fact that in 2015, you quoted the study that actually there was a very small amount of non-voluntary euthanasia in the Netherlands. Now, normally, the negative team gets up there and says very bad things about the Netherlands, right? Because the Dutch are all, killing people with euthanasia, and if you're negative, you're against euthanasia, and you're usually saying things like, oh, how terrible it is in the negative. And so you're actually in the position in your argument of getting up there and saying, well, no, actually, there isn't so much of a problem with this and this. So it was very counterintuitive, which made this debate, a little bit, a little difficult to follow at times, but also, I think, extremely intellectually interesting. Because what we were left with was basically an affirmative case that said, okay, there's some pretty clear evidence that there's relief of pain that's going to be done if we can euthanize people who are incurable. Negative gets up and makes an attack and says, but we have these other medicines that can do this. And if it's bearable, we don't need to have euthanasia. Very good attack for the negative, because basically you're making a topicality challenge with other, called something else. You're saying, if there isn't unbearable pain going on, solving for these other kinds of bearable pain simply isn't meeting the burden of the affirmative, okay? And so that was very good that you made that argument. However, affirmative came back with a very strong defense and, basically said, not true, because there is unbearable pain, and they kind of did a very nice turn where they talked about the 90% target index, but said, but that means that there's 10% that, actually aren't being solved. That's the population we're talking about. That 10%, 100 minus 90, is actually the target universe of quote-unquote uncurable cancer that we're talking about. So it almost grants our solvency. And then they make another argument, and it came up in the affirmative defense speech, and so I guess it would have to be covered in the summary, but it was really, I think, a key point. And it was fair to raise it then because it was in response to the negative attack, and that is, what is the solvency for all of these additional alternative medicines that are expensive? Now, there is some evidence question around that, but it was enough in my mind because there was a large number of people that had to depend on these alternatives, and since it is kind of an argument that's being made, I think, at least in my mind, the evidence was unclear enough that it brought into doubt whether or not every case would be able to solve by all of these, medicines, by all of these sedations. So, as net as a result, it took out enough of the negative attack that some of that affirmative AD1 advantage, flowed across. So, okay. Not over for the negative yet, because obviously even with some, impact to the affirmative case, you could still outweigh it with some DAs, but increased risk of medical error. I'm really sorry I don't have more time to talk about this because there was some, there was some good cards here. I asked for the 4.2 to 4.7%. I think the bottom line is, when I looked at the evidence, I just didn't find that there was enough convincing evidence to show that the increased risk of medical error was linked uniquely to the this burden that comes from euthanasia. There's a lot of reasons doctors are stressful. There's a lot of reasons that doctors make mistakes because of stress, and there really wasn't evidence that specifically said this is uniquely caused by their doubts that they had about euthanasia, okay? And that's something that you really have to have very strong evidence for in the negative if that's going to be your main argument. So that did kind of take out a lot of the impact of DA1 for me. Now on DA2, the deaths, I think here the issue was that you know, it's a good argument potentially, but the affirmative comes in with an attack. They have the 2004 evidence that says, you know, 32%, you know, of doctors basically are looking. There's still time for treatment. And here's the thing, right? Misdiagnosis. You're basically saying people don't make the criteria. But affirmative comes back with a very common sense argument. Like, these people are suffering, they're suffering for a long time. If they're still complaining, that itself is a check against, you know, mistakenly taking in people for euthanasia who are outside the criteria because they keep complaining about it, so they're self-validating, you know, as they go along. So it really does take out a lot of that link. I have to be honest, I found the negative DAs, even though I think they were well argued, not to have a lot of impact. I mean, compared to the impact of the affirmative case. Usually negative teams run DAs that have something about, you know, leading to broader societal impacts. I think you put your eggs in the basket of, you know, increased risk of medical error. It's a very, you know, defined population, and it's a, you know, the link is not that strong with the evidence. So I would really think if you're going to use these DAs, the evidence has to be, you know, a little bit stronger. However, I think that there was really good cross-examinations in this debate. Both sides, I think, did a really good job. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I think I saw a couple of maybe the best cross-examinations that I'd ever seen. So I think both sides should be really happy with themselves for that. So, I'm very much sorry I can't go on longer because I think Nigao-san will have my head, but I just want to say by a vote of 4-1, we voted for the affirmative in this round, but I really want to give a hand to all the debaters who did a terrific job. Thank you very much.